We are trying to see the Sthita Prajna's Lakshana, and we do see that it has now boiled down to the interaction of anyone with his mind, senses, and objects. The entire autobiography of any jiva is a single line statement. What is his mind doing with the senses about the objects? And the autobiography ends there. There is nothing in this world other than that. It may have varied appearances. It may give colorful kaleidoscope. Humongous amount of interest can be generated by interplay and interaction of objects around. A variety of relationships can be developed with the things around. But all that ultimately boils down to one single line. What is your mind doing through the senses with the objects? There's nothing in this world other than that. And since the Sthita Prajna, the word itself means the one with stable, stabilized, Sthita, ensconced into the right place, his intellect, one whose decisive factor has bloomed to its fullest and has stabilized. The very word stability of intellect, Sthita Prajna, means the mind is where it is, senses are where they are, objects are where they are. Neither the objects have vanished, nor the senses have vanished, neither the mind has vanished. All that has happened is they have stopped functioning the way they normally do. Sthita Prajna does see, he has eyes, he looks around. So the eyes do the functioning of seeing a thing, yet more than this, it doesn't do anything. When he sees through his eyes, he does identify an object called tree. So the object tree is also delineated. The object delineated is understood by his mind as tree. And that's where the entire thing ends. No inferences drawn about what has been done. We go to the airport when we are flying from one place to another place. When you're transiting through the airport, you do see lots of nationality people going left, right, center, here, there, because it's a crowded place. Very few of them create any turbulence in the mind because the eyes is saying it, the person is seen, the mind has noted, and there is a full stop. No inferences are drawn, nothing happens. You're sitting in a cinema hall, the projector is on, the screen is lighted, but there is no film on the screen. Nothing happens. The theater carries on, the projector carries on, the screen is on, seeing is on. Nothing has happened because the movie clip did not run. Once we get used to running the movie clip of the impressions that we gather from the five senses, whenever they interact with an object, then the inferences drawn on the observations made by the five senses about the objects creates a kind of liking or disliking. The disliking is an aversion. Liking is getting attracted to the thing. The raga, the dvesham. When such a raga and dvesham comes into the picture, that is the time the ultimate impression left behind. When I eat a mango, I know I'm eating a mango. I know my teeth are working, my tongue is working. I know I'm eating, someone else is not eating. Yet at the end, what I'm longing for, or I get and receive and enjoy, is the essence of an interaction. So every interaction has an essence. You meet a friend, you do note his shirt, color of his shoes, he's grown old, his hairs have grown gray. You make all the observation, you talk to him, you joke about everything, you greet each other, you feel happy that you meet your friend, and the essence of the meeting is in I felt better. Feeling better is an expression of the essence that you derived from this interaction. It is this essence of everything that prompts us to do the thing again and again. If there is no rasam, if it is not surasam, but nirasam, then we will not be interested. How many of us would like to eat the neem leaves? Even though medicinality correct, as per Ayurveda, no one wants to eat the neem leaves because the rasam is not acceptable. It's bitter. The mind has given the conclusion that it is not a desirable rasam. So that means it brings us to a very important conclusion. If there's no rasam, there is no possibility of sense organs getting engaged with the objects for the mind. Knowing fully well, the essence is the one that is the actual culprit for frequent interaction. A yogi, a sankhya focuses on essence, not on the objects. If you feel that I can change an object and that will take care of it, it may not be so. Abandon a woman, divorce a woman in the marriage, get another one, the problem remains where it is. Because it is not the woman, it is the rasam that is created out of the interaction that is creating the issue. Now, there is very important and vital aspects to the rasam. The rasam is the ultimate product of what is called as bhava. Mind well, bhavana and bhava, these are two different, entirely different words. Sentiments, emotions are bhavana. Bhava is what you feel. A drier aspect of interaction is called bhava. There are 12 bhavas that have been enumerated by the great dramatist, the founding member, the one who laid the foundation of Natya Shastra called Bharat Muni. Although he has referred these bhavas with reference to the Natya Shastra, it is considered as one of the Shastras and taken as a base by the Bhakti Shastra. So according to this Shastra, there are 12 bhavas. Each bhava creates a rasa. Shrungara rasa. There is a bhava called Vijugupsa, which creates a rasam called Bibhatsa rasa. Condemnable. If you just think in your mind that you happen to touch by mistake the excreta of any animal, what happens in your mind? You feel, so it's bad. Bibhatsa rasa. Aversive rasa. Favorite rasa. Madhurya rasa. Each rasa creates a relationship. The pranaya rasa with the wife results into what is called Shrangara rasa. Sakhyatvam leads to what is called as a camaraderie rasa or Sakhya rasa. So these rasas are the ultimate essences created by the bhavas, which are created because of the interaction of the mind through the senses with the objects. If these bhavas and the subsequent rasas that it creates, some of the rasas we don't want, some of the rasas we always want. Now these rasas, a Sankhya or a Yogi or a Jnana Margi tries to cut the knot asunder in order to see that he goes away from the rasa. Mind well, rasa is the ultimate essence lying in a subtler form deep into the recesses of mind. So deep are the impressions of rasas that many a times we are not aware that such kind of impression is lying there. The very shloka 60 talks about vidvamsa, vidvana, vipaschitaha. The one who has really reached a particular stage, if he can have the scalan or the fall, we are small mortals already subjected to stupidest kind of rasas. All of us are ekapatni vrata as long as we do not come in contact with any other woman. How many of us, including the one who is speaking, can confidently say that if I am left alone in a place with another woman, which is not my wife, how many of us can confidently say that I shall be able to control myself? It was great sages like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, whose Sahaja Samadhi was never understood by the people around him, who declared him to be slightly mad. And one of the few of the stupid people gave the suggestion that he is young and he's behaving like a mad person, got intoxication they could not understand. So they gave a solution that he should be taken to a prostitute. And so was he taken to a prostitute where he absolutely did Sashtanga Namaskar to the prostitute, saying that, Mata, I don't know why I've been brought here. And there were tears in the eyes of the prostitute, and she was crying, and she herself came out and said that I have done a great aparadha because a god man had come to me and I tried to seduce him. This is called aversion to the rasa. This aversion is not a very easy thing to obtain. That is why just by removing the object, just by dealing with the object, when you deal with an object, it is called Vishaya Sambandham. You're going to get some classical shlokas after some time, in a week or two. Dhyayate Vishayan Pumsa. Yes, the beginning is always from the object, but the Vishaya can be tackled in different ways. Vishayebhya Paravartaha, that is the definition of Dhamma. Return from the object. That's one way of looking at it. Second is Vishaya Virajya Vrata, definition of Shama in Vivek Chudamani. Vishayebhya Paravartha Stapanam Swaswa Golake, that is one way of looking at it. Just bring the senses back from your objects and put them back to their place. Tell the eyes that be in the socket where you are. Don't run around and look at the object. That's one way of doing it. By removing the object in the field of vision. Dhamma. Don't loiter on the weekends in the clubs where those colorful drinks are served. Avoid going there. This is Dhamma. Vishay Virajya Vratat Dosha Drushta Muhurmuhu. Vishay Virajya Vratat, it's a hopeless thing. I should never attempt a thing like smoking or drinking. Vishaya Virajya, Viraja, the colors are faded of the subject or the object. That is called as Dhamma. But even if you deal with the object in this manner, as the beginning of the Shad Sampat, which was told by Ishwarji, even then You cannot forget that the impressions of what has been already experienced. And mind well, when we talk about the impressions of the experience that we have had from the objects, it is not necessarily talking about the present birth. Hundreds of births have given rise to deep impressions lying in the deepest recesses of the mind. And they have ability to jump from the thousands of miles of depth within split second back to the surface with violent force. So a yogi or a Sankhyan decides or works on rasa varjam. So by avoiding the object through the shama and dama, one may avoid the rasam, but a Sankhyan or a yogi extricates the rasam from the deepest possible recess of the mind, and that is called a permanent annihilation of rasam. The question now is it possible to be in this world and permanently annihilate this particular rasam? And the answer to that is the rasam cannot be sublimated unless you have reached the antim rasam, atyucha rasam, paramarasam. This is called niratishaya rasam. Satishaya, we are in the world of what is called as satishaya rasam. What is satishaya rasam? A raw mango, yes, you may like to eat it, but a ripened mango is further sweeter than that. Rather than the ripened mango, a wad of $1,000 notes into $1 million is further something that you want. After having $1 million, a $10 million is something that you want. After having $10 million, you feel you are not the president of any country. After becoming a president of the country, you feel, no, I should have a say in the matter of all other countries. That means one gets higher than the other. This is called a satishaya sukham. Satishaya sukham can never end and can never satisfy because there is something that is still higher left. But when you reach to the highest, beyond which there is no sukham, which is called niratishaya sukham, which is basically not the sukham from an object, but the avastha called a sukha rupa avastha. That is the time when the hankering for pleasure ends. And mind well, in the early winters of 1896, in New York, in a relatively slummish area of New York, the great soul of mankind, Swami Vivekananda, was delivering the lectures on Jnana Yoga. And there he mentioned that the only way to get the highest happiness or the rasam is to get knowledge called jnanam and not sukham. We are all hankering for sukham, thinking that sukham will come by hankering for sukham, but the sukham is nothing else but the byproduct of what is called jnanam. So yogi or a Sankhyan pins his hopes on the knowledge, knowing fully well that the pinnacle of knowledge itself brings an effect called sukham, which is called anandam. The sukham that is unsurpassed by anything is called anandam. That being the case, except the language Sanskrit, there is no other language in the world who can dare to boast that they have a word called similar word to anandam. That is because all other languages are the product of the current materialistic world where only sukham and dukkham is known. Sanskrit being the divine language coming from the source where the anandam is there, the word anandam has been coined, which has so far not found any substitute in any language. This is anandam. Rasavarjam raso api asya param društva nivartate. The conclusion has been given here. The only way to achieve that highest state of rasam or the highest rasa, that rasa has been described in Rigvedam as rasavai swaha. The Rishis say, I do all this for the rasam. And the shloka says, rasavarja rasa vinivartante. Nivartante. Nivartana is to die. Nivartana. So and so, nivartage. Die. The remnant and the permanent extrication of rasam is possible after achieving, and that being the reason, param društva is that state. Param is that which is last bastion to be reached by the jiva. Shedding all the upadhis, the delimitations imposed by the matter, when the consciousness reaches the ultimate consciousness, when Krishna Vasudeva Paramatman becomes one with us, then Mai Nivashyashyasi, 12th Adhyaya, when you reside in me, I reside in you. That is the time. Then the rasam of the highest order is achieved. Naturally, inferior, all rasas are gone. And that is why Gurudeva, his inimitable style, is talking about Saktatraya Siddhanta, the Jagruta Sushupti and Swapnavastha Siddhanta. And the beautiful words that he has used is, he has used a word that supreme wisdom assures the seeker that these mental impressions of sensuous lives that were lived in the past by ego from the beginning of creation to death will be totally erased or at least made ineffective. Two words are used. Mind well and note it. They will be totally erased or at least made ineffective as roasted seeds. When the seeker transcends the ego and comes to experience, it is just a change of plane of consciousness. It's a quantum jump. A person who is staying in a dense forest infested with the animals, howsoever he may try to reduce the number of animals or increase the armament that he has to kill the animals, the fact remains that the fear of the animal will always remain because he is in the forest. The only way to permanently get rid of this fear as well as the animals is to get out of the jungle, on the plains, to the city. This change of place from the dense, heavily infested forest to the plane of joyousness, blissness is precisely moving from the state of jiva to the state of Ishvara. And that being the case, this is the case of the person who is trying his hard and he's at the highest pinnacle of his efforts. We all mortals are at a very, very inferior level. Ashiki sabra talab tamanna beta. This is what our situation described by the Sufi saint. Ashiki sabra talab. God says, hold on, don't hanker. While the mind is going, tamanna, beta, every now and then desire is springing forth like the mercury that has been thrown on the ground. That is why even the vipaschita, the wise, the vidvansa, yatato hyapi kaunteya, purushasya vipaschitaha, indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. How does the indriyas work? When I say that the deep recesses, thousands of miles depth of the mind can spring forth in a split second. For the vasanas to jump to the surface, it takes time which even mind cannot know. Before a nimisha, before the eyelids blink, the deepest vasana lying dormant, engraved there by umpteen number of earlier births, can spring forward. How do you think a person who murders another person in a fit of anger, they say he did it? What is this fit of anger? It's not a fit of anger. It is just springing forth of the dormant vasanas or the rasam that is coming out. Indriyani pramathini. Pramathini is, what is pramatha? Manthana. Samudra manthana. Manthana is turbulent, vigorously shaking. With the help of Vasuki, the Parvatam was vigorously shaking the ocean. So matha, we have a drink that is given made of buttermilk called matha. That's a perverted version of the word matha. You know, we have all heard of the word, this is matham, Sharada matham. What is matham? The place where turbulently, violently the thoughts are churned so that the butter, the navanitham of the intelligence of the viveka can be taken out. That's the place where sabha, sabha means sabhayam saha, the place where violent discussions take place with the help of each other. Saha, that is sabha, sabha. Prasabham, violent. Pramatha, prasabham, violently turbulent. So Indriyani, turbulently, like a zip, how a storm comes and completely levels up all the buildings within no time. That's how the vasanas work. How a poor mortal like us, with our feeble power, we can control this. That is why, although we are in the Sankhya Yoga, that is why the rasam has to be annihilated at each level from the Vishaya. The Bhakti Yoga takes a different approach altogether. The Bhakti Yoga says, do not annihilate the rasam. You like a particular object, you're fond of it, you're fond of your wife, no problem. Don't try to disturb that feeling. Just do one thing. Take that feeling and direct it towards Krishna. Be the wife of Krishna. Madhurya rasam. Oh, you love your friends. You want to always go out and be friendly with all this. It's called socializing. Don't leave it. Just change the friends and take one friend called Krishna. Sakhyam. You're serving for everybody. You feel like helping everyone and you go out of your way and nobody's, properly reacting to me. I try to help everybody. Stop it all together and be a slave to Krishna. Dasyam. Shringaram. Be Krishna's consort. Be Radha. In this world, there is only one Purusham, that is Krishna. We all are. Forget about me as a man and a woman. That's a stupid distinction between the jivas. It is engraved in our mind. We can't think of me. Like as a man, I can't think of myself as a woman. That is because of absolute deep engraving of the Bheda. But factually speaking, all jivas are females. Why? There is only one Purusha, everyone else is a Stree. So the relationship that you can maintain with your God, the Ishvara, can be through the rasa that you get through the Vishayas, except the fact that you remove the Vishayas and bring in the Krishna. So there are two ways of dealing with this world. One is jettison the world, remove the world, throw everything, all the objects, go away, let the rasam go away, and you become purer. Other is, look at the world, be in the world, be the part of the world, but turn everything towards Krishna. That is the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So, a Sankhyan or a Jnana Yoga keeps on leaving the Vishayas. Leave, Vyatireka, leave everything, so that you're not attached to anything. Bhakti Yoga, don't leave everything, whatever is there, keep bringing, but towards the Krishna. So it depends on how much control you have in Indriyas. One is either bring the Indriyas through the Vishaya to Krishna, or bring the Indriyas back to the mind and tell the mind not to get involved so that the rasam is completely obliterated out of the life. And mind well, the shloka is mentioning one very important thing, that vidvans or vipaschita, the wise people, also cannot escape it. The only way of escaping is Atma Darshanam. The one who can wander in this world without even an iota of fear of getting involved into the Vishaya is Gurudev, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Somebody like me, a stupid person, went to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and asked him that such a beautiful young disciple lad you have, such an intelligent person, and he's trying to he's going to become a teacher. Are you not afraid that he'll fall prey to the women? And Ramakrishna said, he's born with Naishtik Brahmacharya. So it was not that he never had an occasion in America. Many girls tried their level best to look towards this great Mahatma Swami Vivekananda through Vaishayika Drushti. One of them even went forward and asked a question to Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji, what if a woman comes and, seduces you? Swamiji tried to avoid the answer, because such questions do not stir anything in the mind. Because why? Rasam is no more there. Atma Rasam, Atma Rasa Rata. But still she insisted, I want to know, if suppose somebody comes and forcibly seduces you, what will you do? And the great Mahatma said, Swamiji said, I shall turn her into a frog. And the girl laughed. Oh, what a joke, Swamiji. And Swamiji said, no, I'm serious. I'm not joking. I shall turn her into a frog. This is called as the one who has seen a Paramadrushtva, he should not fear. Rest everybody should fear. Rest everybody means whom? Even a person, Rishi of the stature of Jaimini Rishi. Vyasa Maharshi taught Jaimini Rishi, Purva Mimamsa. He was his guru. Now what happened? He was writing, Jaimini Rishi is supposed to be the originator of Purva Mimamsa Sutra. In those sutras, all these sutras belong to Vyasa Maharshi. So when he was writing the sutras, one of the sutra was Balavan Indriyo Gramo Vidvamsav Apikarshati. The meaning is, Indriya Gram is so balwan, Indriyas are so strong that even the most intelligent falls prey to it. Jaimini Rishi thought, maybe my guru has made a mistake. So he changed the verse and he put it this way by putting only one alphabet. Balavana Indriya Gramo Vidvamsam Api Na Karshati. He just put the word Na. Vyas Maharshi came to know that the disciple has made a mistake. And he has not made a mistake by writing mistake. He thought so. Ki Vidvamsam cannot be tempted. And then after a few weeks, it was rainy season. It rained heavily and a beautiful young maiden lady came to the hut of Jaimini Rishi and asked for shelter for one night. Jaimini Rishi said, that is up to you. You can come inside, be there. She said, I'm completely wet. I would like to have some fire. He said, don't look at me. There are some wood there. Put the fire into it and do whatever you have to do. I have to go ahead with my tapasya. The lady put the fire. Because the clothes were wet, she had to dry them. She had to remove them. And for a moment, Jaimini Rishi looked at her, and rest everything is history. The lady started telling Jaimini Rishi, you are such a big Rishi, I don't want to have a sin of seducing you. Please don't come close to me. But Jaimini Rishi said, no problem. I want to be with you. This is called what happens to the rasam. The lady said, okay, I will be with you, but I have a condition. What is it? She said, just take me in your arms and make 3 circumambulations of the fire. He said, that's not a big problem. So he lifted the woman and started taking 3 rounds faster. Rasam, faster. While he was taking the round, the lady was hitting his head with a finger, and every time she was saying, Balvan indriyo gramo vidvamsam api karshati, Balvan indriyam. And at the 3rd round, Jaimini Rishi realized, how is it that she knows my Guru's mantra or Guru's shloka? And that was the time the lady turned into Vyasa Maharshi and said to Jaimini, Vatsa, it is not easy for the Vishaya Rasam to go out and Vairagyam, Para Vairagyam to come. And that is how the way also has been given by Gurudeva. The ignorance of spiritual reality can be removed by slowly inculcating the Sattva, completely removing the Tamasa, keeping the Rajasa to the minimum for the sustenance, and basking always in the light of Sattva. That is the way to move forward. So that is why how the Vishayas can be a biggest possible obstacle for the Dehin is being described here. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Sanjay ji. We have a few minutes if any sadhak wants to ask any questions or clarifications. A couple of minutes. Sanjay ji, one quick thought is it almost seems like we are, like it's also said in the Kathopishat, we are vilifying the Indriyas. And I kept struggling with this thought last evening, which is, suppose if a person is born blind and deaf, let's say these are 2 of the Indriyas, and without a sense of taste, let's say these 3 which, or without sexuality, right? So these are some of the things which detract you. It's a very difficult life, and it does not really help to achieve nirvana if you don't have these senses. Let's say you were born blind and deaf, right? You will not have the ability to. So one thing that at least I was reflecting on is, it's not that the Indriya, these senses are bad. It's just that the way we interact with how we use them is what is bad. Otherwise, they are very essential. Is that the right thinking?
Absolutely. In fact, what is the point in blaming the Indriyas? They do nothing. They are insentient. They have no role to play. Will my eyes be bringing any sensation to me? Because unless my mind works on those, supposing I'm asleep, my eyes may be open. Some people sleep with open eyes. They may see something, but you don't realize what you are seeing. Why? Because the background processor. How about a PC without a CPU? So why do you blame the screen? Screen is reflecting, because screen alone has no power except to reflect. So the whole thing is happening in the mind. And as far as not having an Indriya is concerned, there was a yogi called Gulab Maharaj who was born blind, and mind well, he wrote 140 books. Or the blind monk whom Gurudeva met, who lived for more than 100 years, who popularized Veda. So what happens is, it is not the Indriyas to be blamed. It is the mind that has carried the impressions of the past. So if you have really studied Bhagavad Gita very well, and if you're a sattvic person and you die and you are reborn as a blind or a deaf, you will recall your Bhagavad Gita even by somebody pointing finger towards the book. Samskara Uddipana happens in the mind. All the Indriyas are absolute conductors. Can you blame the wire for giving you a shock, or you will blame the electricity? We will have to blame the electricity. The poor wire is a conductor of the electricity. So Indriyas, and one step forward, why blame the objects? Do you want a world where nobody is existing so that you can become Vairagya Purna? No. The world is God's creation. You have bloody no role to play in that world. Play the way divine will wants you to play. So the beauty of a lady is a beauty personified by Lord. Why don't you look at it that way? That beauty is not meant for your consumption. Remember one statement of a Sufi, मोहब्बत में वो फल सुहाना होता है जब देखना इबादत होती है, छूना गुनाह होता है. Look at the world the way Lord wants you to look, not through your eyes. So organs, sense organs, objects are of secondary importance. The most important organ for all of us to think, work and work and work is mind. Mind your mind, and then you don't have to mind. Hari Om.